Welcome to this week's episode of Moving Forward Talk with Diana. I am your host, Dr. Diana Clark. This platform is open to discuss various topics with the goal to motivate others to move to shape their future without limitation. And this week, I'm happy to announce that I have a very special friend of mine, Sister Trish. Sister Trish, it's a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure.
Sister Trish and I, we live in the same city and we are also members of the same church. Our children attend the same school. If you ever want a good laugh, call Sister Trish. Sister Trish, give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Well, I was born in Jamaica. I grew up in Jamaica. I migrated here to the United States, Highlands County, Florida. Uh, I have four wonderful children. The oldest one is in the Army. The second one attends high school right now, about to be graduate. And the third one is in middle school, and the youngest one is in elementary.
Okay. Sister Trish will be sharing with us and giving us some encouraging words on advocating and being patient with our special needs children. And for a disclosure, we are not trained clinicians, we are not licensed therapists, so therefore we are not providing any treatment plan. We are sharing our experiences. Sister Trish, tell us about your special need child.
My special need child, who is my second child, when he was born, 4 months after he was born, I noticed that he wasn't doing the things as a 4-month-old would do. And so I started thinking something is wrong somewhere. So I took him to the doctor and let them know what I was noticing and what I wasn't getting from him, such as he wasn't really sitting up at that time or rolling over. So after further testing, we had a therapist that came in the house and worked with him for a little bit. And after that, they had diagnosed him as developmentally delayed. And it was a shocker to me because you always see developmentally challenged, children, but you just didn't think that it could happen to you. I didn't think that I would have, a child who has a disability. And after that, I just started to advocate for him. He started school early. He started school at the age of 3. Shortly after we moved away from Highlands County in 2009. Before we moved away, he was going to Fredwile Elementary. And so the county did their tests. And so what they did was they put a label on him. I didn't agree with the label, but that's what they put on him so that I can get him into school.
Right.
That way he can get the services that could help him. So while he was going school, I thought that the school system here was really helping him. In the interim of that, he wasn't really speaking. He would say one word, and I got used to that one. And after that, I just sheltered him, and I sheltered him a whole lot. In 2009, we moved away from Highlands County and went to Osceola County. When I got him in school, I remember the teacher said to me one day after he started school, and I went to pick him up, she said to me, "Why is he in my class?" And she said, "He has so much potential. He's not for my class because my class is lower
Mm-hmm.
and he's upper function." So she said, because of his IEP, what you call IEP, it's just a fancy word for labeling.
Yeah.
So she said, because of his IEP, he has to be in my class. But I would recommend that for next year, you talk to the principal and have them put him into a upper function level class because his function doesn't match what the IEP says. I said, okay, thank you. And then my eyes started to open and I started to see a little bit more clear. And I'm like, okay, well this is good news. This is good
Right.
news. Knowing from where I'm coming from at that time, mark you at that time, Jamel was not reading at the age of 7, 8. He wasn't reading. He barely spoke. And because he was used to me knowing what he wanted and doing everything for him. So he was used to that. And I was used to that too. Because I thought that that was the way it was going to be for life based on the IP, based on his
Right.
IP. But when that teacher said to me that he's not for her class, he's supposed to go in the upper function level class, I'm like, oh, that's great. So things are starting to turn around. So the next school year, I talked to the principal, but the principal already knew, and she placed him in a class that is for upper function. Now, that teacher class that she placed him in, that teacher didn't believe in holding them down based on their disability. She believed in treating them as a regular, normal person.
Right.
And that was the beginning of the turnaround. And he turned around and he made a 180-degree turn that year. He started talking. He wasn't really reading, but he started talking more. And he started to do his work. Whatever work they gave him, he started to do it. So he gradually started to climb. The following year after that, he moved into a different class. He started to read little by little by little.
Mm-hmm.
His work was like really great. So I was like, oh, yeah, that is really good. I love this. But I had to come back to Highlands County. I had to move back. And I never forget when I was leaving to come back to Highlands County, the teacher said to me, now when you go back to Highlands County, I don't want you to let them put him in a class that is lower than his capability. despite of what his IEP says.
Right.
I said, okay. I said, I'm not going to let that happen. But like I said before, my eyes had already opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to do things differently. I started to look at him differently now. And so when I came back to Highlands County, I got him registered in Memorial Elementary. And I went to the principal and I talked to her and I said, I know what that IEP says, but I'm going to show you the kind of work that he's capable of doing. I'm going to show you the work he have done. And I had a bunch of paper for him that he has passed through, that he has done in the class, previous class. And I showed her. And I said to her, I refuse from letting anybody label my son with anything. And I said, you know what? It took me for me to leave Highlands County and to go into another county to know what my son could do and to realize that he wasn't really getting the help here before.
Right.
So she said, okay. And she put him in a high function class. Uh, the name of that teacher, I forgot her name now, Miss Daniels was the name of his teacher. And he spent, I think, 4 years in her class. And at the end, when he was graduating, he was the person that read the speech.
Excellent. Excellent. Time and patience.
Time and patience. He read the speech. And that year, he got the Tucker Award. And when he moved over to the middle school, he just kept excelling and excelling at everything that he does. And he
Mm-hmm.
kept excelling. Now, when he went to the high school, now this is the shocker. When he went to the high school, after his first year, and at the beginning of the second year, I got a letter in the mail one day from the school board stating that the school board is honoring him for perfect grade. So I was like, perfect grade. So I'm like, really? So I'm like, I'm really excited now. And I went to the award ceremony and all that. And he got a perfect grade on his, I think it was called FCAT at the time,
Mm-hmm.
FCAT, and he got a perfect grade in geometry. And every year after that, I have gotten letter from the school board to come to a ceremony for a perfect grade that he has got on his exam. The only one that I have not attended was the one for last school year because of the COVID. So
Right.
I think they scrapped that. But from he started high school all the way up, they have honor him with a perfect grade at his for his exam that he did. And I called his teacher about a few weeks ago because this is his last year. And
Mm-hmm.
I called the teacher a few days ago and I said to her, I would like to know what is his credit? What does his credit look like for
Right.
graduating? She says, oh, he has 23 credits. So at the end, when he's supposed to be graduating, he's going to be graduating with a little more than 24 credits, because 24 credit is what is the required amount for graduation.
And that is commendable.
Very commendable. And he has a GPA right now of 3.5 GPA.
Awesome.
And this is, I'm telling you, this is coming from somebody, I'm telling you, at the age of 7, 8 years old, that wasn't speaking, that didn't know how to read, nothing at all. But you know what? I stood up for him. I kept in touch with the teachers. I made sure that he wasn't, I didn't just leave him to attend school and just to go to school and that was it.
And
I made sure I
I
stayed
don't mean,
involved.
I don't mean to cut you, but at this point, I wanted to say parents must play their role.
Yes, they have to. They have to
Yes, we must play our role in our children's lives, especially in school.
in school.
You know, back in Jamaica, and I'm sure it's probably somewhere else too, they always have this saying to say, if the patient don't care, the doctor won't care.
Doctor.
Right.
Yes.
So, and I strongly do believe that when teachers see students whose parents are very active, very consistent in their students' lives, I believe that makes a big difference. And even the time that that teacher spend with that student.
Yes, it does, because I can even tell you how many teachers have told me that same very thing, that they wish that other parents would be involved in the children's life. I had one teacher tell me the only thing the parent do is just to come and drop off the child, and that was it. They don't know anything else about the child when it comes on to their schoolwork academically.
Mm-mm.
But I stayed involved, and I made sure that he was getting all the services that he needed to get. I made sure of that.
And
And
but let me ask you this, going back, when you first realized or when he was first diagnosed, were you yourself at that time in denial?
yes, at first, when he was first diagnosed, yes, I was, because I said, oh, he's still young, he'll get over it. So I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But as he started to grow, it became evident to me. And
Mhm.
then I couldn't deny it anymore. Because,
Right.
like I said in the beginning, he wasn't doing stuff that at that age, a regular child would do. So after that, it became evident to me.
And I think, and honestly, that's where some of us we make that mistake. And if we're not careful, we live with that guilt. And I'm speaking from experience because, as you know, one of my sons as well has a disability. And
Right.
and I remember he was probably about 3 years old. My uncle had came and visit. It was probably about three. And my uncle says to me, he said it jokingly, but I was offended. And he said, don't you see there's a problem with his speech? If you don't do something about it, he's going to be dumb. Because at 3, he could only say bet. And then I remember I went to Jamaica one time and I took him to Jamaica. And my stepbrother said
Right.
to me as well, are you getting some treatment for him? And I was like, for what? And he was like, can I know you can tell something is wrong because you've been around kids all your life, and I know you see the difference. And I said, there's no difference. Leave me alone.
Right.
But in the back of my mind, honestly, I know that his speech, especially his speech, wasn't where it was supposed to be for his age, because
Right.
all he could say was bet for a very long time. But we don't want, I guess, is, and I'm not going to say it's nothing to be ashamed of, but that is the way I felt at that time, because no,
Yeah.
not my child.
Child, right. You didn't want it to happen to your
Mhm.
child. Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then continue living in denial, and we shelter them.
Yes. Yes.
And what I found out later is that sheltering is good, but sometimes it does more harm
Yes.
than good.
Yes. I found that out too. Found that out. When my mother came to the United States to live, when she migrated here, and she saw how much I was sheltering him.
Hmm.
And I remember I said these words to her, that she said, "Why are you sheltering him like that?" And I said, "I have to, because he's going to be with me like that for the rest of his life. So I have to." She says, "No." She says, "He can do stuff. You just have to let him do." And it took me a little bit, but I started to put on my brakes a little by little by little,
Hmm.
and I realized that he started to do stuff that I was doing for him. He was now doing it by himself.
Yes.
So, like you said before, the sheltering can be good, but it also can be bad, because when you shelter them, it doesn't give them a chance to really grow up.
Right.
And what it does, it teaches them that somebody is going to always do something for them, and it doesn't
Hmm.
teach them to be responsible. And even now, he still surprises me, because sometimes when I think that, okay, I might need to help him in this area, he's like, he just surprised me. And I'll give you an example. When they started school in August, I was very, I felt, I guess, kind of not so good in sending him back to school,
Uh-huh.
because I wasn't really sure if he was going to wear the mask. So I said, well, I don't think he's going to wear that mask. I don't think he's going to keep that mask on. So I was very afraid. But I remember I was talking to my pastor about it. And he said, "You're going to send them to school?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to send them to school." But I said, "I don't know about Jamel, because, I don't know if he's going to keep it on." And I never forget these words. He said to me, "He might just surprise you." See, I wasn't worried about my other two, because I said, well, okay, they're going to keep theirs on.
Yeah.
But I was worried about him. And I remember my pastor said to me, "He may just surprise you." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, but yeah." But let me tell you, he did, till this day.
That's, you
I
know
can
what?
tell you.
That's the joy of it. There are stressful days, honestly. There have
Yes,
been thousands of crying days, but there are days when I just have to look and I think about it and I laugh. Because even with TK, I would never allow TK to drive. TK, and I'm like, you need to learn to drive, but I'm saying that verbally, but inside I'm not giving you my car.
right,
Yes, and I
right.
would never allow him to learn to drive until Tiffany took him on the road once or twice and said, well, he did well. And I remember a couple of years ago at our scholarship banquet,
Yes,
and not this year, we didn't have the last year that we had it at Sunny Lake Center.
Sunny Lane.
Right.
Mhm.
And he stood out there. He was looking at me thinking I was going to hand him the key. And pastor said, "Why don't you let him drive you home?" And I said, "Drive me home? No, He said, "No, man, give him the keys. Let him drive you home." And mommy always said, "Give him the keys. Have a little confidence in him."
Right.
And I gave him the keys, and he drove me home. Of course, when I got home, I sat in the car for a few more minutes, processing everything. Should I get out the car?
Everything.
Am I really
Right.
home? But he did.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yes. So sometimes,
We have
they're
to
our
let that
babies.
breathe.
And I
Yes.
think one of the reasons too, we shelter them and don't allow them to do stuff that they are capable of doing.
That they're capable of doing, and that is so true.
True.
But you said something very profound, that I mean, there is so much joy. you know
Yes.
I remember when he was younger, um when after he started talking, and everything, he asked me, I would say, why?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, because. And he would ask me so many questions, and I would say, because. And even when I tell him the answer, he would repeat it again. And so I said, because, because, because. And one day, he's I got a call from the school, and the teacher said that uh, he hit another student. So I said to him, "Why did you hit the student?" And he said, "Because." I said, "Why did you hit the student?" I said, "Why did you hit the boy?" He said, "Because." And every question I asked him, his word was, "Because, because." And then I finally, I finally caught up to myself, and I'm like, he's mimicking what I said.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but you know what? When he asked me a question, and I would say, because, and I would get so tired of it, and I just didn't. I ran out of answers, and I didn't know what to tell him. I would say, because I said so,
Right.
and that would just kill it right there. That would just, that was the
Right.
end of it. So on the day when I was asking him, why did you hit the boy? And he kept saying to me, because. And at the end of it, I said, why? There was no need for you to hit him. Why did you hit him? He said, because I said so. And then, I was taken back. And I think that was the last day I said, because. That was the last day I said, because I said so.
Because it's crazy because that's all he could remember. And you
Yes,
say it so many times, he can't
so
help but
many
repeat it.
times.
Yes.
Yes, yes, I said so many times. And when I run out of answers, I would just say, because I said so. He would say, why is the cow going there? I'm like, because. I said, but why does the cow go there? I said, because I said so. And so the day it came back to bite me, because I was saying to him, why did you hit the boy? And he kept saying, because. And at the end of it, he said, because I said
That's
so.
all.
And I just couldn't do anything else. I just said, okay.
Okay.
So
But
it's so much, it is so much fun. And I'll give you another fun joke. Um, we have a saying in Jamaica that's, um, somewhere far, we say yonder.
yeah.
We said yonder. So both of us, we were looking through the door. And I said to him, we were looking, through the window. And I said, oh, they're down here now, because the last time I saw them I said, I saw them up by yonder. So he said, oh, yonder? I know yonder live in Sebring now. I thought yonder was in Avon Park, lives in Avon Park. so so at first it took me a little bit. I'm like, huh? And he said, I thought yonder live in Sebring now. I didn't know yonder live in Avon Park. So, so he just took it out of context completely, and we all laughed about it. Both of us just laughed
Like,
about it because then that he realized that I'm saying yonder,
yeah,
but he didn't know the meaning of yonder, you know. So I told him the meaning of yonder. But like you said, I tell him all the time, I said, I don't care how old you are, you are still my baby.
yes. One of the things I've always said is I said to my mom a couple times, TK is one that who's never gonna ever move. He be 45 living with me. But as you said, he surprised me because he was ready to go off to college.
Yes,
And even though I was saying, oh, don't go, just go to South Florida State College, he's like,
yes,
what I want to do is not at South Florida State College. I say, "I'll still go, just get a degree." And he was like, no, I just don't want a degree. I want the degree that I want. And I had to think about it and said to
yes,
myself, let him go. I'm not going to cripple him. Let him go.
yes,
Even though it took everything out of me
everything.
to
Yes,
drop him off in Fort Pierce,
yes,
I had to let him go because one of the things that we need to encourage them to do is to thrive
it's the tribe.
in
That's true.
all areas of life. And I've always told him,
Yes,
a little disability, whatever it is called, I don't even use the word honestly,
yes.
but it doesn't dictate who you become.
No, it doesn't.
It don't. And one of the things, and I remember I would never send him anywhere if I wasn't going. The
Mm,
first time I sent him somewhere without me, it was to camp, ACI.
yes,
And I remember everybody keep asking, why don't he go to camp? And I have other excuses. Oh, I don't have money to send him to camp, or that's our vacation time, or something. But one year he was like, I want to go. And that may not be correct. I think the first place he went without me was when he was at the Christian school. And they went to Washington, D.C. for 11 days for an educational tour. And at that time, and I'm thinking here, I'm going to go crazy because I couldn't go with him. And he's not a phone person. If I didn't call and check, I didn't hear anything. And I have to keep calling the teachers. Is he going? Is he doing well? And I would have to call him every morning. Oh, TK, make sure that you do this. Make sure you wear the clothes as I organize the
yes,
clothes, everything. And one day he said, "But I am fine."
yes.
And then I remember when he was going to camp, I went to Pastor and I said, Pastor, can you check on him for me? And I
Right.
even went as far as to ask him, please let him be roomed with Jamel.
Yes,
And I thought they were roomed together. I said,
yes.
I would
They're
prefer
room.
him room with Jamel. I don't
Yes,
want him to be room with anybody else. I never explained why, but I'm sure he knew.
yes, yes,
So,
yes.
so Trish, how has the whole thing impact your family overall?
Well, my family, they they don't treat him any different. They treat him regular. And you know what? I have a cousin right now that she has a son that has a disability. And, I was able to tell her some stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that listen, because she was actually, the same thing I went through when I found out about Jamel's disability and all of that is the same thing that she was going through.
Yeah.
And I kind of help her along the way, so she knows,
Mm-hmm.
what to expect and all that kind of stuff. But they deal with them, they deal with, both of them as a normal child. And
Right.
like I tell you, they keep surprising us every time. But I think the problem is, like you had mentioned before, what is it is that we lock them in that box.
Right.
And then, we don't allow them to really open up and to really so that we can see their full potential. But I can tell you, anytime we start doing that, they're going to surprise us all the time. I have a friend right now. She has a child that has a disability too. And when she takes him to school, she says, "Oh, I'm just so scared of just dropping him off, and I want somebody to walk with him to the cafeteria." I said, "Well, let me ask you this." I said, "Have you ever tried asking him to show you where the cafeteria is?"
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "I never really thought about it that way." I said, "Ask him to show you where the cafeteria is," because her problem was that she thought that he doesn't know where the cafeteria is at school and he's going to get lost. So I said, "Have him show you. Pretend as if you don't know where it is and see if he will walk you to the cafeteria." And I said, if he walks you to the cafeteria, he knows where the cafeteria is.
Mm-hmm.
So then you don't have to worry about him going to the cafeteria on his own. Now, she hasn't reported back to me if that worked yet or not, but I'm just showing you how we can shelter them. And I'm pretty sure he knows how to get to the cafeteria by himself, because going to the cafeteria is a repetition, and they
Right.
grasp it, repetition, and that's how they grasp stuff.
You know, when we shelter them, it is not even because so much as them, because they are comfortable. Honestly,
Yes,
they're
they are.
comfortable. We, on the other hand, we're worried about being judged. Everybody
Yes,
else is going to look at them differently and
look at
judge
them
them. Because
differently.
I'm telling you, I went through, and I'm still going through that. Even in church, I'm going to be honest, even in church, but they calling TK to do something, I'm like, I would rather him not do it, because
Right,
I don't want him to get up there and make a mistake, or he have a tendency of standing there for 3, 4, 5 minutes without saying anything. And at
right,
that time, I'm wondering what's going through everybody else's
mind,
mind.
right.
I know one evening he was reading the scripture, and I caught it maybe because I'm so conscious of it. Sister Rosa caught it too, because she was sitting right next to me and said, "Betty's okay. It's okay." And there, we're reading alternatively, right? Alternate verses. So he was supposed to read the other verse, but he read the verse that the congregation just read. And I said, "This is, oh my God." And right then, but nobody else said anything. I don't know. I don't even know if anybody else, they must have noticed, but no one said anything. And Sister Rosa just pat me and said, "But it's fine. We're just going to continue reading. It's
Okay. But because, like you said, we worried about being judged,
yeah.
if they mess up and all of that. So, because like you said, they're comfortable. They're
Yeah.
comfortable. But it's just us as parents. But, nevertheless, like I said, as parents, we have to advocate for
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't really matter what it is, whether in school or out of school.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that we should, advocate for them. But on the flip side of it, we're going to allow them to
To
grow up.
grow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to grow up. But that doesn't stop us from being their support,
Right.
from being there when they really need us, and to really advocate for them.
Yes, because just this year, I stopped talking for him. Now I find myself asking him, do you want me to? Do you want me to call and explain? If we go to the doctor's office when they ask him question, I just sit there now. If it's
Right,
taking a little bit too long for him to explain, then I will start talking. But then I'll ask
right,
him if no, I try to ask him, you're 21 years old and his sister is always on me. Let him be a man bet. Give him the opportunity to prove himself. She always said to him, TK,
yes,
I'm giving you permission to ask Bet to let you be. Give your time to answer. Ask Bet nicely. Stop talking for me. If I need help, I will ask.
right.
So with that being said, I find myself, even though sometimes I find myself, typing, emailing the teachers as well.
Yes, that's true.
But that is for my own peace of mind.
Peace of mind. Yes,
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 that
yeah.
is for my own peace of mind. Now, is there anything you would have done differently? Like
You know, there
sitting
is
here, the
nothing
thing.
I don't think I would have done. Uh, or if I should have maybe done anything differently, it
Mm-hmm.
would have been that I never the information that I got and that I understood when I moved away to Osceola County um, differently. I'm only sorry that maybe my eyes weren't really open up to that earlier when he
Right.
started school here, but because I was taking the word of the IEP at that time. So that's probably what I would done. But for advocating for him
Mm-hmm.
and to allow him to be in his own space and you know to grow up, no.
And when I sit back sometimes and I examine and process the whole thing, I did a lot of the work of teaching him how to talk, teaching
Yes,
him behavior strategies, teaching him everything because I never accepted any help. I didn't want him to be labeled. So even I would go to these specialists and they'll say, you can get some help through such and such. I'm like, I'm fine. It's
right.
okay. I'm taking care of this at home.
That's right.
So even when he was here as a big boy pointing at stuff, I taught him you don't point, because wherever we are, if he needed something, he just come get us, walk us there and point.
And
Maybe
point. Right.
you don't point, we talk. Now tell me what you want. I'll figure it out. And of course, with the behaviors, I did all that work. I never went to a therapy. Of course, it was in speech therapy because that I'm like, okay, let's put him into speech therapy. But those behavioral therapy and
Yes.
everything,
Yeah.
I
Yes.
just did not accept any assistant because I didn't want him labeled,
Yes.
which may not be a good thing for him in the long run. And I can share this. Even 2 years ago, we went back to another specialist, and they were like, the best thing for you to do is to have him registered with the agency for people with disability. And I'm going to be honest with you, that application that she handed me is still sitting at my job in the desk drawer because I'm thinking, no, I'm not doing it.
Right.
And like I said, it may not be the best choice because with all the resources that are there through that agency, of course, now he's not eligible for any assistance because he's not registered.
Right.
But I just told myself I have struggled along the way for
You've
21
come
years,
this far.
and I'll just continue to do it.
Yes. You have come. You have
Mhm.
come this far, and so yes, I've I've given up on different services and stuff like that that they have recommended for him.
Mhm.
And I just said, no, all that is just more labeling and labeling,
Yes, in
labeling,
labeling, and I don't want
labeling.
that. Hmm.
And I don't want that. So I felt like I got this, I got this, because ain't nobody know him better than you.
Right.
So I'd be like, I got this. I don't want no, you know, different services and
Mhm.
some of the times when they'll say, okay, we got this or we can put them in this, but it's a waiting list. I said, that's okay. I said, that's fine.
That's fine. You know, because even we had
So,
this little struggle when he was in second grade. We had this little struggle, and I just pulled him out of school. I just literally said, okay, we don't have to worry about it anymore. And I put him in the private school setting
yes,
because I know in the private school setting, the struggles I am going experiencing in the public school, the private
yes,
school is not
it's not.
ready to label you and put you
Yes,
in different classes. No.
yes,
And that's
right.
what I didn't want. So I just pulled him out and he went to the private school, smooth sailing. When it was ninth grade, I asked him, I said, do you want to go in public school now? So you can be a little bit more
With
exposed
your peers.
to diversity, because over here, just a handful of kids over here. He was like, yes, I'll try it. And he went through high school with no issues.
Yes, and he did fine. Yeah,
He did well,
yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
well.
I'm
And sometimes I would say,
like,
and I'll joke with him, and I know if my sister watched this video, she's gonna be upset because my sisters, all my three sisters, please, if you're ever around them, don't ever say anything about TK because that's their baby. They don't want my sisters, my mom, my dad, they don't want you to say anything to him. They don't want you to be rough,
right.
anything. Just leave him alone. Let
Yes.
him be. But sometimes, even my sister would get mad at me sometimes. I know she look at me like, because I said to him, what are you having? Are you having one of those moments? But I say that jokingly to stop me from crying. To be honest, I
Yeah.
say that jokingly to stop me from crying, because when I say that and I can start laughing instead of looking at him and saying, oh my God, and another teardrop just rolled out.
Yes, and yeah, and I understand that different times I'll go back to when I was giving birth because he was a C-section baby,
Yeah.
you know, and before I had him, the doctor had said that he was going to schedule a C-section for me, and I said, okay, fine. But on the day when I was supposed to have my C-section, he admitted me to the hospital, and then he was doing this induced labor. So he
Mm-hmm.
was trying for me to have him naturally, and it ended up into emergency C-section.
Mm-hmm.
So then at the end of it, he was like, "Oh, I'm so glad that we made the decision to do the C-section because the cord was wrapped around his neck. So if it was where you kept pushing and pushing.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I think about that, and I'm saying to myself, during those times when, because when you have induced labor, you know you have contraction. And I was saying to myself, I wonder if during those times,
Mm-hmm.
that when I was trying to push and he just wouldn't come because he wasn't coming down in the birth canal. So I was saying if that had something to really do with it. So I understand. I would oftentimes go back to, that very beginning part of it just to try to figure something out myself and get answers.
But I guess there are some answers that we'll never get.
Never get. After a
Yes.
while, I just stopped thinking about it, and I said, "This is just one thing." But
Yeah.
when you have that kind of moment,
Right.
so you go
It,
back to
you go
thinking,
back and you wonder why and how. What did I
yeah.
not do? What did I
But then
do?
you come to
Yeah.
reality, and you just know that some things it's just we'll just never know.
Yeah.
There was this boy in the Bible. I think he was blind, and they had said to Jesus, what happened? Why is he like this? Did his parents did something? And then Jesus said, no, he didn't do anything. His parents didn't do anything. It's just for my glory,
Yeah.
you know.
And if
So
you if you see me wearing this necklace, I'm not a person who wear jewelry. Wear my two rings, on my finger
right,
to let it seem like I'm a married woman. But no, that was a joke. But I didn't even know we were gonna have this conversation because when we started, I started off with something else. But something
right.
said put my necklace on, and this necklace, I think I would treasure it forever. He bought this for me 2 Christmases ago, and I'm
Oh,
still shocked. It said "Live, Love, Laughs." I think it says on there. So
right.
every now and again, I
You
pick
put
it
it
up
on.
and I look at it and I say, "TK gave me this, so I have to wear it every so often."
Yes, yes.
And I'm telling you, one morning I was gonna wear it, and he was here, and it was so tangled. I thought I had broke it, and I looked at him. I said, "TK, I don't know what happened to the necklace." And I gave it to him. I said, "I don't know if you can untangle it. Do something." And when I came home from work, it was entangled and put back in the box and back in a safe place. And I'm like, that's my TK.
Yeah, yeah.
But I must admit, there are times when I'm so pretty rough. There are times when I'm so rough on him, I have to go in my room and repent and come back at times and apologize and let him know I don't mean to, but it's for
Yes,
his own good. And I just
yes.
can't sit and watch him. And I always tell him, I can't sit and I just cannot sit and watch you let life pass you by.
Right, right.
Which I know is not going to pass him because he's at his
Mhm.
own pace. But
Right,
yeah,
right. Well, yeah, I've done that too, but I look at it, you know what, Beth? It's a part of growing them. It's
mm-hmm,
a part of letting go, let them experience, let them, grow up. It's a part of it.
mm-hmm,
It's a part of not sheltering them. So, there are times where you're gonna get upset. You probably will get mad at maybe what they did, because sometimes some stuff that I think that my son should know at that age,
right.
he doesn't know. Like sometimes some things in the house that I know that he should be able to find, and he doesn't know where it is, and I'm like, after all this time you don't know where it is, you know and I
Yes.
say, okay, I'm going to show you where it is, and make sure you keep that in your mind. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah. So it takes time. It takes patience. It
Yes,
takes
it does.
prayer,
Yes,
prayer. It takes a whole
yes,
lot of prayer. And I'm not going
yes,
to
it
say it
does.
takes a lot of prayer. I'm going to say it takes a whole heap of
A
prayers.
whole lot of prayer, and not just prayer, fasting too,
Hmm.
Maureen.
And every day I have to ask God, Lord, give me the strength and give him the strength.
Yes,
Because in the interim of it, I have to remind myself it could have been a lot worse.
could have been a lot worse.
It
That
could
is
have been
true.
a lot worse. And I said, Lord, please don't let it get any worse
Yeah,
than it
I,
really
yeah. I
is.
thank I thank God for my situation, because just like you
Hmm.
said, it could have been worse. Um, so I thank him for that situation. I thank him for that. I really do, because
Hmm.
I don't know if it was worse, if I could have handled it. But I thank him. I thank God for that. Last like you said, you know, we just have to pray, and just keep him.
And it's
Just
crazy because as I'm sitting here, we're
mhm.
talking, I don't want him too far away from me.
Yes, go ahead.
And I was just offered, and I haven't even said this out loud yet because I'm still
Yes,
thinking about it. but maybe by the time I post this video, I would have already said something. But I was
Right.
but I was offered a job, and I'm so excited, Trish, and I'm so excited. And this was on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. This like on Tuesday, I believe it was, or Monday,
Mm.
one of those days. And I'm so excited. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to relocate, and this job is all the way in Washington State.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, but this is a career change for me and everything. I'm going to go. And I have been really so very excited and like, I'm ready. But then I walk in my house. I'm going to be honest. I walk in my house. And I'm like, I don't want to leave my house. And then I pushed that behind me. And then last night, my ex called me because my son, my other son, he still comes around, see my son,
Right.
whatever. Overheard the conversation. I was like, I was telling you about a job. He asked me, did you get a job you were applying for? And I said, yeah, I got it. And I'm getting ready to move. And he didn't say anything. Trish, about late, it was late last night. My phone was ringing and I jumped up and I'm like, who's calling me this time of night? When I look, it was him. And I answered the phone and I say, what do you want, Gary? And he said, man, I'm just sitting here thinking, why are you going to move that far away from TK? And I said, TK is a grown man like that. He said, I don't think you should go. I think you should stay. What if he gets sick? And then he just brought back all this, everything back to me. Nobody's going to run because, as you know,
Right.
TK also have MS, multiple sclerosis. And I said, but I'm not expecting him to have any episode. And he told me that he called me, late last night saying that in the entire day today, Trish, all I can think about, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can.
Yes. So you're back to square one.
I don't know if I can. I don't, should I not? So I'm just right now even playing a tag of war. Should I, you know, pursue my career? Or should I just stay here for another year when he's done with school? He'll be done another year and a half where he can tag along with me.
Well, well, you know the answer to that. You know the answer to that is to you know, the Bible saying all thy ways acknowledge him
Mm-hmm.
and he will direct thy path. So tell it to Jesus and he will
And that's, yeah, and
direct
that's what I
your
said to
path.
Tiffany. That's what I said to Tiffany. Tiffany, I've been applying for jobs here and there, I don't know, for 3 years. The first one that offered me a position, like, nah, I don't want to go. After I weigh certain options, I'm like, nah. And
Right.
it was still revolving around TK where I decided not to. And then the second one, I'm like, nah, I don't want to. It didn't feel like it. But I said, could this be? I say, I'm consulting God about it. Could it be? Because everybody else has been saying no, and this says
Yeah.
yes. And then when I spoke to TK, because I called him, because I was offered another job, and he really don't want me to take it.
Okay.
He said, "Bet no, don't take that. I don't know. No, I don't want to take that job. We can still continue the way we've been going. Don't do that." I'm like, TK, I'm going to take that job. And he's like, I don't want you to. Don't take it. But when I told him
Yeah.
about this job last night, he was like, oh, that's good. That
He
is
wanted
good.
you to take
He
it.
wanted me to take this one, but the other one that that I really would love to have, he was like, and I think I'm leaning toward not taking it because he kept saying, but no, but don't take it. No, that's not for you. I don't want you in that environment. Don't do it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm at this crossroad now, but like you said, I'm like, I know whatever is in God's will,
Yes.
that is
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Whatever
Yes.
is in the will of God,
Some
that will be
sometimes
it.
sometimes we're so sure about it
Mm-hmm.
that okay, this is it, this is it. But then when it gets so close, God will just put some stuff in the way to
Mm-hmm.
block it.
To block.
And
Yeah.
then you'd be like, and just like we were talking about earlier on before we kind of started, and I was talking about um, the flight attendant job,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But you know what? When I look at it now, I'm like, Sister Beth, what if I'd really moved away and gone to whether North Carolina or New York or somewhere? Look at the pandemic we have now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I remember this was the very last one. I had a I had a second interview to go to um, for Frontier Airline.
Mm-hmm.
Now Frontier has a base in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I said, like, yes, God, this is it. This is it, God, because they have a base in Orlando, so I don't have to move. So this is it. And he just dropped something completely different out of the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
And I changed that up. I changed that interview time two times, two times, and I still didn't go. But then when I look at it now, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I have to say, thank you, Jesus, that you really didn't let me go.
Yeah, because
Because
when you
I'm
start telling me
now.
at first, when you start telling me at first, I was thinking, and I didn't say it to you, but I was thinking, just like what Gary said to me last night, I was thinking, if you had gone and with that job, you probably would never be home
Long enough.
long enough to actually take care of and advocate for Jamel.
Yes, yes,
You know,
yes,
you probably
yes,
wouldn't be home long enough. Yeah.
yes,
And the A student that he is now,
yes.
probably because you're not there enforcing everything.
Yes,
And like folks would say, nobody do it like a parent will.
like a parent will. Yes,
Nobody
that
will
that
do it
is
like a
true.
parent will. A
That
good
is true.
parent, that is. So,
Yeah.
any encouragement for mothers who
I
have special needs
I would
children?
say for parents who have special needs kids, as I said before, and I can't stress it anymore, advocate for
Mhm.
them. Have the patience because it does take patience. I never forget his teacher told me this: repetition, repetition, repetition. So we got to tell ourselves that this is something that we're going to do every day, the same thing every day. Support them. Don't just, and another thing, don't just accept what they label these
Right.
children.
Mhm.
Don't accept that. And because sometimes it's because we accept it. So we think that they can't do more than what a piece
What
of
the,
paper say.
right.
But they can do way more if we just be there
Mhm.
and advocate for them and repetition.
You know, Trish is so true, and I know you heard it before, but it's another good time to say it again. When specialists, two different specialists on two different occasions, told my son not to go to college, to just quit because it's not for him. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he's putting too much stress on the brain, and this is going to happen, and that it's not good. And I remember I said, Lord. Mm-mm. I cried from one day. I cried from, I don't know how I made it home. I cried from Tampa all the way to Sebring at my house. I got
Yes.
up. I got up that next, was a Friday evening, because that day I was in Tampa all day with testing and testing and testing. It was
Yes.
6 hour long.
Yes.
That Saturday morning, I got up. I went to the gym. I sat in my car and I just cried. I called Tiffany and I just cried. And I talked to him. I said, What do you think about what they're saying about not going to school, or only go to school taking one class every other semester? And I said it, I said, because I'm paying out of my pocket, and
Right.
we don't have the time for you to spend 28 years in trying to work at your AA degree. He was like, no, I'm going to go. And we talk about it and we pray about it. And Trish, when he graduated with his AA,
Look at it
um,
now.
I'm going to be honest with you. When he graduated, he didn't walk, but he graduated. When he graduated with his AA degree, I felt more proud than when I graduated with a PhD. Because,
Yes.
like, I'm going to be honest, the PhD means absolutely nothing to
Nothing
me.
compared to that.
Compare,
Compared to that.
compare, even with his high school diploma,
Yeah.
it means absolutely nothing.
You know why? Because they
Yes.
told you that he could not do it.
Mm-hmm. And I
They told you
remember,
that he couldn't do it.
I remember, I told Sister Rosie, I was in church on Friday night, Sister Rosie, TK, finish. Graduation is scheduled for April 30th. I need a few people to put on their tennis shoes because I was determined I was going to walk from Sebring to Fort Pierce. I wasn't going to drive. I was going to walk from Sebring to Fort Pierce to the graduation. That's how happy
Yes.
I was that he successfully completed what he was told that he couldn't do because of
Couldn't.
disability or limitation. I said,
Yes.
boy, you don't put
Yes.
any limitation on yourself.
Limitations. Yes, you don't. Yes, they don't. They told me the same thing too when he was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And after, just like you said, after I've been to Tampa and different days of doing tests, because the test that they do is not all in one day. For my son, that is. So I had to go there for like 2, 3 different times.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, when you're thinking you're looking for some really good news and some, then they come with this labeling and this, they be like, and I was so upset and I was so mad. And I never forget, I told the lady, I said, I don't care what you put on that paper, but I said, I know my son is not that. And I said I can bring him back here the next year and show you how much he has changed because I don't believe in what you put on that paper. And she said to me, um, she said to me, well, if you don't want to believe it, that's fine, but that is my finance. I said, I don't care.
Okay.
And I
What you
walked out that office without taking a paper, and I was mad. And I said, this is wasting, this was such wasting of time. 2, 3 different occasion time to be up here just to get that. So I said, but
yes.
look at
Mm-hmm.
him now.
I'm
Look
glad
at
you.
him now.
Yes. I am glad you said something to him because one of the appointments I walked out, I looked at TK and said, let's go. That's all I did. When he continued to talk, telling him what he couldn't do, what he said, let's
Yeah,
go. And I
yeah.
said, and he looked at me, the specialist looked at me, and I said, TK, let's go. We're done. Let's just go. Didn't want to escape. Let's go. We had an appointment to go back. I didn't go back. I didn't call him. He didn't call me because he knew when I got up and walked out of that office, the only thing I said to him, you don't tell him what he can't do.
Was it
You're supposed to encourage him. You don't tell
right?
him what he can't do. Let's go. Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's very profound, Sister Beth, because this is this would be my advice to parents. Understand, you know, because information from you
Mhm.
and they do the little test, and based on that they put up these God is not going to label them as
No,
that. So
no.
to parents, parent and parents out there with child or children who has disability,
Right.
fight, keep fighting for them.
Keep fighting. And I was just looking at this, and just to throw this out there, and you could probably find it too, because I just look it up, research it, and I had it to be consistent. Us, parents, be consistent. And it's not only just parents, guardian, providers, caretakers, whoever is having hands on with special need children, teachers, it doesn't matter. Be consistent, learn about the child's condition.
Yes. Do
Learn
your
about,
homework.
yeah, learn about the child's condition, define then your expectation, use rewards and consequences, use clear and simple messages, offer praises, establish a routine, and most importantly, believe in your child.
Yes. Yes. Believe in them. That is very important
Mhm. Sister
to
Trish,
believe.
believe. Thank you so much for sharing
Yes.
with Moving
It was
Forward
my
Talk
pleasure.
with Diana. And I'm sure this was so comfortable, Trish. This was so comfortable. We just breeze on through. I told
It
you
was my
guys,
pleasure
I told
to
you
be on
guys,
here.
yes, if you ever need a laugh, call Sister Trish.
Uh, uh,
Until next week, this has been Moving Forward Talk with Diana.